All right, today I want to talk about Matt Longo coming off of a PRP injection. He reached out to me like Thanksgiving time of 2024. He just played last week for the first time for Sacred Heart, went 3 up, 3 down. It was his first college appearance. Absolutely fired up for him. It's a great video. His whole team's fired up. And his first throw was on January 13th of this year, and I just kind of want to go over what we did. All right, and this is just the kind of outline that I want to touch on before I get into this. So step one, obviously coming off PRP, we have to get range of motion back. I want to talk about the importance of, rapid drop catch work that we did. And then I'm going to get into MedBall reintroduction, how to use MedBalls, before we get into a return to throw phase overhead. Ultimately, we get into plyos and then tracking with radar metrically. And then lastly, we get into mound split, getting back into the game. So this is just the 4 things that I want to touch on, like kind of how we did this. So yeah, first off, let's just kind of go over some of the clips from his outing here. This was it. Hold on.
Swing and a miss. So how about Matt Long?
Look at this dude. That dude's. I think this guy DM'd me. One of his teammates DM'd me.
On his first career
appearance,
sets down Yale 1-2.
As you can see, he's a big athlete. Like, he's got a frame on him, and he's got a lot of talent behind him as well. He's originally been up to 89 miles an hour. Here is another angle of him throwing. We do not have velocity yet from what this outing was on Synergy, but he looks fantastic. His extension looks amazing. The confidence is there. He's back. I'm excited to see him pitch this week, actually. So yeah, I want to talk about rapid drop catch work. I think it was extremely effective for his scenario. Matt is a guy who, just like everybody else, we tend to overthink in processes like this, and the ability to turn the brain off, assign a human being a task, and just watch them react at a very, very fast pace. It helps the elbows. Now we've, reintroduced lifting. The elbow can manage load, and I want to see it get faster. So here, just a rapid drop catch, barbell row drop catch, add a little bit of weight, and I just want to see the elbow fully extend and fully flex. Assign a task to him, and I just want to see him react. I want to see the elbow do the job for him. The goal with this was to not think at all. It was just his elbow do the job, right? Same thing here with some more RDC work. I'm just going to let this play yet again. I just want the elbow to fully flex and extend, assign a task to it, and then have the elbow do the job.
Motion of the
right?
elbow. So boom, boom, boom. Notice how as I go back, I'm pronating as well.
That's what we did. I just wanted to see him react. He struggled with these at first, and he knows it, but then over time, he started to really get the hang of it. And then, before we actually throw anything overhead, I want to reintroduce the body to the throw. So we did med balls a lot. So I'm a huge advocate for any sort of chop variation, just up and down, really light. This is not aggressive at all. I just want to see the shoulder do something. Same thing here, 90-degree med ball wall taps, scap retracted med ball wall taps. I just want the shoulder to accept layback before we throw overhead. Then we start to get a little more dynamic. We started doing med ball shot put parallel, med ball shot put drop step work, anything to kind of get the lower half doing the job for us. I typically like to tell athletes to move the lower half at 100% intent, like 10 RPE, and the upper half stays at like 3 to 5 RPE, and then that'll ultimately allow the upper half to get into the 6 to 7 RPE without even thinking, right? Then we get into very dynamic work. This is Coach Michelson here. Just any sort of rotational bilateral work, and I want to go overhead with the shoulder. Yet again, we're in 10 toes position, but we did split stance with this as well. We did roll-ins as well. And we did all of this, before we actually threw anything overhead. So then we get into plyos, and this is the kind of progression that, I typically program in. So we just start, this is just ER pulse work. Start with a red ball before we even get into a baseball. I just want him to relax in a preset position and just throw. Something that I do is I program red ball before blue, and then from there we go blue to red, green, blue, red, and then ultimately add the yellow, depending on where the arm's at. Here, for example, this is after red plyo, and then we started throwing blue. I don't really have a rhyme or reason for that. I had a coach ask me that one time, like, why do you go from red to blue and then go blue, red, yellow? I like the weight of the red, and I don't have any proof for this, but it just simply helps my guys. I just prefer starting with it rather than a yellow or a blue. Just simply, I feel like just in their like anecdotal experiences, like it helps them mentally. I think it's just the weight has something to do with it because it's so close to a baseball, even though, yellow is. Then we get into some catch to self work. I hated this. I lit him up with this. I wanted to get more dynamic. So yet again, stagnant, preset positions. And then we get into catch to self and then ultimately roll in variations with the pullback. This is a bow and arrow. Just pull it back and scap retraction and then fire. The problem was with these two, and he knows this, we got a little sticky. So it's supposed to be pretty fluid, but as you can see, it's more of a catch, robot yank, and then pull, right? So it's not a fluid catch to self drill. So we kind of got away from the trampoline here because I think it was just too much going on to focus on. Kind of the opposite of the rapid drop catches, what I was talking about earlier, because the whole point of the rapid drop catch is to not think. I think this was too much thinking, which is why getting into like roll-ins with bow and arrows, this wasn't a lot of thinking. It's just, hey, pull back and throw. So he had a lot of success with this one. So this is really important. This was some of his first throws here. We didn't radar. So this was like his probably second or third session. His first session was too hard, way too hard out the gate. So I don't actually like using radar until, they've just established to throw the baseball. I like using percentages. I like using distance for the first like 3 to 6 weeks, depending on what surgery they have, then get into radar because I just want them to throw. And then, and then look, like we start using radar. This was in the higher 60s afterwards. But the problem was we did so much. Like he was throwing way too hard out there. I wouldn't be surprised. We talked about this. I feel like his first throw was like 70 and I was like, cool it. So we cooled it. Obviously, this is like in the 50s. So like it was more relaxed. I was like, okay, it's a little better coming off PRP or like any sort of, thing with the elbow, get into the 60s and then get into the 70s. We went from radaring behind to radaring in front. As you can see, we got a little more dynamic, with some step backs and some hops. With the lower half, like I said earlier, with the med balls, like make the med balls go really fast with the lower half, and then this kind of follows along. But this was interesting for both of us because I typically delay the radar until they're ready to start looking at it. But I threw it on them like after week 1. I was like, nope, never mind. We got to see where we're at. This was probably around week 2 or 3. And then obviously we, delayed into the 70s. I wanted to make sure the 60s were like mastered, like pain free. We had no pain in any of them. It's just like we were going too fast out the gate, right? Pens begin after we get into the upper 70s. The goal was low 80s. He knows this. I did not want him to pen this early at all. So, he wanted to play. He wanted to get back. I understand we're on a timeline. I get it. It's Division I baseball. I was going to delay pens 3 to 4 weeks, but, I talked to a really successful rehab specialist a couple weeks ago. This is after, Matt and I were in a pen phase, and he's like, listen, like at the end of the day, like, it's the athlete's career, like you can provide them guidance, but it's their decision. So Matt was like, I'm ready to throw pens. I didn't want him to. I completely disagreed. He wanted to throw pens, and we started throwing pens. Low 80s for the first 3 sessions, got into the mid 80s the next 3 sessions, and then we started throwing live. So, Matt made a great decision, and he's pain-free, and he's absolutely shoving right now. He looks fantastic. I hope he pitches more. Like, I think he looks great. I'd love to see him, get into the low 90s. But this is just something where, like, and I'm open talking about this, where nobody can say they're perfect in this sport or in the coaching world. So this is a learning process for me where he was ready. He knew he was ready. Or maybe he didn't know he was ready, and he wanted to go, so I let him go, which I'm trying to get better at. I don't want to, cage people. I want them to, feel free here, but I also, am responsible for them, right? So that's why you have to be smart before you let an athlete get on the slope. But he has absolutely killed it. I am so happy for this dude. Seriously, he deserves it. It's been a long time since he's pitched. And I'm excited to, keep working with him because, I want to keep him healthy. I want to get into the 90 miles an hour. He's in the upper 80s now. I want to get him into the low 90s, but he killed it, man. He really did.